Welcome back to the Jagged Edge. This is Chris, as always with Ian.
Yeah, I'm here, and you sound almost too happy.
Well, the funny thing is that I actually waved when I said that too, and I don't know who the hell I was waving to, but
Oh man.
because no one's gonna ever see that, obviously. But yeah, so here we are, another episode of the Jagged Edge. This week, mainly going to be focused, just like last week we were focused on movies. This week we're going to be focused on games.
Right.
And we're talking board games, Chutes and Ladders, Monopoly, Life.
Munchkin.
No. Munchkin's a lot of fun. Hey, that's not a board. Is that a board game or is that a card game? I think that's a card game. Although I have the board game version.
Yeah, I see now here. When I first got into Munchkin, I thought that the card game and the board part of it were inseparable. I thought they were both tied to each other. I didn't know there was just a TCG version.
Yeah. When I used to play that, we used to use pennies.
Oh, okay.
And so I think we took away pennies instead of the person who ended up with none, I think was the winner, something like that. But then I got a board game version of it. And so, but anyways, we're not actually talking about card games and board games. We are, of course, talking about video games. This is our, and I think we're going to have to do two of them.
Yeah.
Because going through this, we're doing a year review of the games coming out in 2017, and in both of our cases, both of our experiences, the world ends in September, and there are no more games. And that's obviously, because they just haven't announced anything to actually come out. Then I'm sure a lot of things will, but Christmas time being the biggest time of the year for video games. But yeah,
Yep.
So we can only go till September. And you see now last week, Ian had selected a few movies, about 5 movies. I've selected a few games, but he's going to run through the list. Before that, though, we are going to talk about a couple things. I've got a little bit of news. I didn't want this to pass this week when I heard about it, and we're gonna do a Legion review, which Ian's going to do mainly, and I'm going to listen because I have not seen Legion yet this week. I'm probably going to, well, not probably, I will catch it this weekend, but I didn't get a chance to check it out on Wednesday.
It's easy to creep up on you and miss an episode. I get it. I've had to do a couple of catch ups myself, but this week I lovingly named it the prison episode. And that's because here we have we've been talking about the slow pacing of some of these episodes, and here you have one where it's mostly about a therapy session, a really huge therapy session. But this was actually a really welcome break in said pacing, so I thought we got a lot of progression. This episode was pretty much driven by Lenny. Interestingly enough, is we've seen her as a junkie and everything else so long. Now she really takes this role as this psychiatrist, really cross-examining the rest of the main characters. She's got David in the chair, she has Sydney in the chair, and everyone else, just really going through them, their conditions, and just diagnosing them.
Now, is Sydney really there, or is that just in his head, or are they somehow connected and her psyche's there as well?
The way I looked at it was that it's the latter. Her psyche's there.
Okay, so her conscious is there.
Right.
Okay.
But I do want to put the caveat that David's issues really aren't the focus, not until the very end, and I'll get to that because the end of this episode is probably my favorite part. But we just take a bit of a cross examination of each character. I know there's a lot of focus on Sydney being haunted by the sort of now you see it, now you don't. Bedroom door that pops up in the asylum hallway, and then every time she goes to investigate it, she finds it's like this little bullet-sized hole in the wall that kind of bleeds with what was it? I want to say it's that guy. Who's the guy with the fuzzy head, the afro? I'm so bad with that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't think we ever catch his name, but he's part of Division 3.
Right. And so you've got little glimpses of that, but if anything, that still doesn't lead to a conclusion on her part. Everyone's kind of stuck in this episode. They're all stuck on some kind of issue, but that leads back to what ends up happening with David and the last part of the quote-unquote examination. Lenny pretty much just spills the beans about it. There's a lot of things that we assumed anyway, especially with the parasite that's been in his mind, but
So should we say at this point this is the spoiler part?
Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
Cover your ears if you don't want it.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. 2 minutes.
Lenny really reveals to David two interesting things besides the goal, the parasite's goal, or what it's trying to do. One, that it knew David's original father. Now, that has to. We talked a bit about this. Early in the series, we thought we saw a glimpse of Professor X in his bedroom as he was a child growing up. Obviously, it's not the case. Looks like his adopted father. But here we seem to have a being that knows who Professor X is, and moreover, this isn't just a parasite that's limited just to David's mind. This is an ancient mutant, something really powerful, not just a psychic manifestation. Mentioning that it has specifically been searching for him, and that even through Professor X's best efforts of, bear in mind, Professor X was never actually said. I'm just throwing that in right here because if they're gonna stick with Continuum, you have to have that. Despite his efforts, still he did not manage to fully hide David. And the parasite / Lenny's point is, well, really all I need is your body, because as long as I have that, we could at least take a crack at being even more powerful than God is. So it is trying to get him out of the picture and seal him away. Talked a lot about how frustrated it is to watch him try to go through love and friendships and everything else, and how it's all just a distraction from what the things he should really be focused on and what they can actually do together. So the end of that episode was real eventful. It seemed there was some part of David that got locked away, and I'm really curious to see if this thing's going to start having a lot more direct influence on his behavior or not, or how much of himself is he going to be able to control. Is he going to fracture more, or is he going to be able to consolidate this stuff? And I think it's a pretty good setup for the next episode.
Well, yeah, I mean that's interesting. I mean, maybe it sounds like this this parasite thing isn't going to go away anytime soon. Do you think it'll be gone by the end of the season?
Well, if it is, it's going to have to end in a big confrontation.
Okay.
When it's looking like it does not want to go peaceably. It sees David's current existence as really just an obstacle, and it wants him and his power. Basically, there's no other way to do that besides getting control of him.
Huh. Sounds interesting. Like I said, 2 episodes left. Can't wait to catch this one over the weekend. Also, just real quick, or I'm sorry, before I use that for a segue, was there anything else that you wanted to say about Legion?
As far as where we're going, I'm not really expecting any other huge reveals come out at this point. Legion's been pretty subtle about things. I think any links to X-Men or whatever else will probably be done way later in the series, or even if needed at all. The direction it's going, I think, as long as if it can do what it did this episode, sort of build that suspense while keeping everything kind of quote unquote locked in a stasis, but you're still looking forward to, oh man, what does that mean, or what does that next part mean? I think it'll be in good shape. I'm hoping it doesn't just drag itself down again, because this has happened twice already. I get really excited for something that's about to happen, and we get reined back down a bit. So,
Right.
Crossing my fingers for good pacing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, yeah. So, also not to be forgotten, coming out this weekend, coming out to Mania from when we're recording this, Iron Fist comes out on Netflix season 1.
Right on.
I can't wait. I'm really excited about this. Obviously, this is the lead-in season going to the what they're calling a mini-series. They're not actually saying that they're going to continue it or anything, but the Defenders then, which is only going to have 8 episodes. It's not quite the season size, but the Defenders then coming out in a few months. Very excited. This is going to be awesome. And then I think the next one after that, I think is... it's got to be Daredevil season 3 or Punisher. It's going to be one or the other. They've been working on both. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for the Punisher. I mean, outside of the actor who played obviously Shane on The Walking Dead, which I am a huge fan of. Besides that, I mean, they didn't plan on doing anything with the Punisher, or by having his own show or anything like that. But he was everyone loved it so much that you got to love that, something that's fan driven like that. As specific, I mean, obviously they just started with Daredevil. Yeah. Because Daredevil did so well, they expanded this whole thing. They've been expanding the MCU on Netflix. But it's like, the fans loved this so much that we're doing just that because they loved it so much.
That's great.
Yeah, so very much looking forward to that. But yeah, so Iron Fist, I'm binging that after work tomorrow. That is guaranteed, and I hope the critics are wrong.
Same. This is one that's just been getting pan left and right. I know I saw, I think it was like an IGN review earlier today. Really similar to what same thing you were talking about last week. Same reasons. The reason the panning's happening and everything, but we'll see. Hope they're wrong. Hope it's based really well, and
we'll be talking about it next week.
Oh yeah,
that and we'll be going over the reviews for the Nintendo Switch, something that obviously we have to revisit because that's been a big topic from our first show. So
big time.
We got to go over that.
Especially after getting a chance to see it played and seeing the demo panels at PAX South. Still not getting one, but nonetheless.
Well, and apparently you could.
You could if you were there for the events and if you mean on the grounds, yeah, they had a lot of promotionals going on.
No, I mean now. We don't have to go into a whole Switch thing right now, but they made a big deal about how 2 million units were coming out worldwide, which for most other consoles the last 10, 15 years or so would have immediately sold out. Not the case here. You can still get them some places. Now I'm going to double check that, but that's what I saw looking into this a little bit today was that there in some areas you can still get one. But we will talk about all that next week. So I got a quick bit of news. I didn't, I saw this today, and I didn't want to let it go because I know that we want the show to not be 2 hours like last week. So.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna cram so much into it, but I saw this, and there's not much to it other than a confirmation of something that's been hinted about for a little while now. They are going to relaunch The Matrix.
What? No, I didn't.
Yep, they're going to relaunch The Matrix. Warner Brothers has confirmed that they're in early discussions and planning to relaunch. Now, I say relaunch because I don't say reboot,
right?
Because it's not clear if they're going to continue with the story so far, or if they're going to reboot it with something with brand new. But yeah, it's been confirmed they are in the works for this. The Wachowskis. They're not confirmed to have anything to do with it yet. Right now, the screenwriter Zach Penn, he's working on the treatment. I mean, that's how new and how infant this is, that they're not even saying they're writing scripts or writing movies. They're just writing the treatment right now. Not much on Zach Penn. He did X-Men 2. Which is a good thing. Everybody likes X-Men 2, but that was a long time ago. But so is The Matrix, so maybe that works. Besides that, he also did Ready Player. I think he's working on the screenplay for Ready Player One, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, a Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out based on a book.
Pretty sure you're right.
Yeah,
that's what I'd seen. This really is the age of the remake in all areas, not just gaming and shows, but in movies as well. I think that this points to something larger. You just look at all the material we're going back over because we can fully imagine and fully visualize all this stuff now. We've got the tech to do it. I think there's something to be said coming out of the 90s, coming out of the early 2000s of sort of the point we hit and a lot of the big prolific stories that we told that still stick with us. Matrix has been mimicked in I don't know how many ways, not just its action scenes, but the concepts thematically, what it's pointed at, and its pop culture relations. And fans, I mean, heck, if you see Matrix Revolutions, I know you've heard talk about people saying, "Oh, come on, what else happens? There has to be something else, right? What is he reinserted? Does this all start again? What's the future like now? So on and so forth." So there were still some open questions, but.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, but this is all around the board. This is something that's just sweeping, I think, entertainment. Period. When it'll stop, who knows? Part of me wants to say once we start really, I think, getting movies and ideas and everything out there on a similar caliber consistently. Not saying that we don't now. There's still like a lot of good original content, but I think this whole revisiting phase is pretty essential to.
Well, it's interesting for The Matrix because I mean, well, let me ask you this before I go on to what I was going to say. What do you
Uh-huh.
think about the Wachowskis so far not having anything to do with this? And if let's say they don't, let's say they only give it its blessing, or they don't even do that. What do you think of that? The original minds behind this. What if they're not involved? What do you think of that?
Tells me that they told what they wanted to tell, and they left the rest to the audience and the viewers to fill in.
Well, and they certainly did, but go ahead because I'll continue. I don't know if you know about how far this actually goes, but or
No, no,
how
no.
far down the rabbit hole it goes, I should say. That was lame. All right, go ahead though.
No. If anything, they made another statement similar about the narrative they constructed, wasn't something that they, intended to immediately go in and refresh and uh, start bringing out multiple sequels to. Simply told in the vein it was, and I think left there. But you've got a piece of this puzzle, and I'm kind of curious about what's the other side to it.
Well, okay, so the story of the Matrix actually went on for years after the movies. This is something that, and to their credit, the Wachowskis said because there was just a couple games that came out
I was just
uh,
about to ask you if it was the games.
for the Matrix, and one of the things that came out, there was a game that came out between the second and third movie,
Right.
and that was canon. In fact, one of the cool things about whether you like the game or not, it was definitely cool that the Wachowskis came out and said, "Well, this is part of what happened in between. This is the only way you're going to get this story." And then even the excuse me, the Animatrix, a lot of that. In fact, I think all of that also canon. In fact, another interesting bit
Right.
about that was the fact that you have these side stories. In fact, including a summary of the events that led to where the world is, and that is also canon. It's interesting in that respect. But there was an MMO, and it went on for about, I want to say, I never played it, but I think it was about 3 years, maybe not that long.
Yeah, I
But
remember.
but even then, the stories in that are apparently canon.
Right.
And this isn't, Warner Brothers owns this, obviously, and they can wash that all away if they want. But I mean, that's interesting. There's a lot of story there, and for the hardcore fans, that's what they followed.
Yeah.
I don't think like Star Wars, where you had all these books and there was never a definitive answer what was canon or not. You also didn't have the endearment that you do with Star Wars for the Matrix, where they can say, for the sake of being able to do one movie a year for the rest of time, we're going to wipe away all that extended universe canon to build brand new canon, just like we did before with the
Right.
other movies. Something that, while a lot of fans aren't happy about that, still it is a smaller base, and it made sense to do it. I'm not sure how well that gets accepted or not.
Yeah.
Well, while it is obviously a smaller cult following, it is a cult following. Um, I could do with another Matrix trilogy. I would like to see them continue on the world that they have, either through prequels that have nothing to do with the story that we saw, because it's openly said in the movies that the Matrix has had to be rebooted or restarted on several
Right.
occasions.
Right.
They could tell those stories. They could do side stories. There's a lot they could do. I'm never a fan of just wash it away and start again. Sometimes it makes sense, but in this case, it doesn't. I don't think it does. And with where technology is and filmmaking and everything else, I see an opportunity to build off of what's been done and not have to start over.
Which I think brings us back to the front of the first point you mentioned about this too, about where the Wachowskis feel the story stands. If you take the end of Matrix Revolutions in totality with the MMO, all the gaming portions and everything else that happened, they have obviously laid out their framework for what they've dubbed canon, and for them, that was enough. If that's still enough going forward, we'll see. Curious again if they'll have any involvement, whether that's a blessing or direct involvement in that. But
Right.
pretty cool. I think it's pretty poignant to raise that point that there is a large side of Matrix that a lot of us don't know about. Heck, I didn't play the games. I didn't play the MMO. I remember when those came out. I looked into them a little bit lore-wise just to see some of the things they were exploring, but I never got into them, so I'm sure I'm even missing tons of details. And Matrix is one of my all-time favorite series. Period.
You didn't miss much.
Good.
Well,
Good
let me rephrase. I mean, well, actually, I think with as far as the MMO is concerned, the Wachowskis even did help with some story treatments. There's some dramatic things, some things that happen with Morpheus. There's kind of a return of Neo, not really, but it's not him, but it's some kind of copy of him or something like that. And I didn't play it either. I never played any of the games or the MMO, but the MMO is very story driven. It's very interesting how they ended that thing, where I think they ended at stroke of midnight on New Year's, and everyone just kind of died and turned into like these cubes, and there was these horrible dramatic avatar deaths and interesting stuff. But for a while, everyone had crazy like super Neo powers and stuff, or typical fare from when they ended MMO.
Oh yeah.
But how do you continue on with that, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Really interesting. I guess I guess whichever way they go, I'm okay with. I would prefer that they not wipe away the story, because whether you like the second or third movie or not, and a lot of people don't,
right?
I'm okay with them. I think the trilogy as a whole tells its story. Whether you like the second or third or not, it's hard to say that the Wachowskis did not follow their vision the way that they thought they should, and there's something to be said for that. And it's not also because of the fact that that's really rare when it comes to movie telling. But they were given the free reign, and there's definitely a style to those movies that would have been gone had that not been the case. But I would like to see them continue on in that world somehow. But as long as they stay true to what they're doing, I think I'd be okay with it.
Same here. Let's hope.
At the same time, I could see it being a horrible train wreck. It's just the truth. You can't, especially Warner Brothers. They're not doing so good with the DCEU right now.
Oh man, that's a whole other bag of worms. It just makes me want to play a sad Ben clip. Oh well, or sad Affleck rather.
Oh, don't even get into that. We're not even going to talk about that. We're not even going to talk about the news that came out this week with that. So.
Oh man.
But yeah. So again, news I didn't want to just let go this week.
Yeah.
Got such a big focus. I thought that was important. So with that, sir, it's all yours. I will just be making my attempts at witty comments from this point.
Diving right into it. The gaming preview, at least the rest of the preview we have for 2017. Sort of what we touched on, in the beginning of the show. Well, what's crazy here is, as far as titles, a lot of things coming out too. Now, you think of a gaming release structure, right? And you're automatically thinking forward to, oh man, what's in the spring? And then what's in the fall? And then what do you have to look forward to in December? This is a lot more one track. Honestly, a lot of the major ammunition that we're seeing here is really happening spring, depending on what your bend is, of course, and going into part of summer. But towards the later portion of the fall, not as much. If anything, now there could be, I think, if some more releases are confirmed, but there's so many things that are kind of out in the ether at this point, or that aren't really fully locked down in releases. But let's just start from the top with this month. We have here in March,
Well, no, and I'm going to interrupt you, sir.
On?
Because that being said, on the few that I have on my list, 2 of them have actually come out.
Oh, for your list that you wanted to... Well, that's in March, though. That came out this month, right?
Well, for 2 of them, they actually came out in the last few weeks, so I think that's February.
Well, no. Last few weeks... Okay. March. Late Feb. Continue. Go on.
Okay, so before we go forward, I just think that they're games that should be noted because they're pretty damn cool, I thought, because they're on my list. So, there you go.
Rolls eyes?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Didn't play any of the originals.
Well, no, this because this is...
Is it an original?
It is an original. Came out in February. This is the one I'm sure you've seen clips for it and such. You'll probably recognize it as soon as I tell you about it. It's the post-apocalyptic story. You've got wild robot animals running around,
Oh, this one.
and
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus just a little bit.
it's you can't not if you're a fan of Shadow of the Colossus, you can't not see a similarity here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been out for a few weeks. It's getting
Yeah.
amazing reviews. I will be playing this game this year. I've still got a few more to take down before I get any new ones. But this game looks awesome. I definitely researched this a bit going into tonight to make sure that it was something I was going to get. And most definitely, this game, for all of you who are playing it right now, I am jealous. This game looks fantastic.
Came out on the last day of February, I believe, the 28th.
Sure, I just have February down.
Yeah, that's when it.
So
yeah, launch right at the end. And yeah, I do. Was thinking the completely wrong game at first, but yeah, this looked fantastic. Great. What was your other one?
my other one is Walking Dead, a Telltale series. This is season 3, A New Frontier. Now, this is something I've always planned on binging, and I think this is the year that I'm going to do it because I have not played any of them now. This is the third one. I haven't played any of them. This is a story. Let's see if I can say this right. These stories they're Telltale stories, which I said you probably know what that is more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But they're based in the comic book universe, but they're canon for the comic book universe. So they're not related to the TV show. They take on great style from, I think it's based on the original first 6 episodes of the comic. Issues is the word I was looking for there. Issues of the comic just looks absolutely beautiful in color, which is kind of crazy because the comic has always been in black and white. I know these are great games. I know it's been winding down a little bit. It's not quite getting the third one's not quite getting the reviews that the other ones have, but I do plan on binging all of these this year. Again, that also came out in February. I mean, I'm not on top of this stuff like I used to be, man. If there was a game that I wanted, it was coming out, I was there. I was at the store that day picking up my reserved copy. It's not the case anymore, but still love these games.
Cool. Yeah. In fact, I heard had a few friends that were at PAX East 2017 over the past weekend. I believe there was they talked about episode 3. In fact, while they were there, I think they had it was like a short panel or something on it. But unfortunately, I missed East this year. I went to South. No regrets. But next year, I'll be back at East again. So, from what I see, though, the third episode for this Above the Law is going to be coming out on the 28th of this month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they come out in different episodes.
Yeah. So you must have the previous one, again, probably around Horizon. It was probably right at the end of February. I guess I don't have the release date in front of me exactly, but
I'm going to be hitting these all late, but these are, talking about the games that we're looking at this year. That's another one for me.
Cool. Very cool. As far as stuff that's already come out beforehand, I can't really think of a whole lot. Most of what I'm looking at this year is either really sketchy in terms of release or going forward. But there is, in fact, really nothing I'm going to personally dive into, but there is something from a certain developer here that I think is going to resonate with both of us. I'll get into that in a minute. We've been talking about remakes and everything else. I thought this was kind of funny. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil PC. In fact,
really,
that's tomorrow. 17th, yeah, tomorrow.
That's still a thing.
Turok.
Wow.
You remember now? Did you pick up Turok 1 and 64 when it first came out?
I never played Turok, but I mean the game was huge.
Yeah, it was. This was part of the trailblazing, I think, laid out by GoldenEye.
Right.
Turok was pretty much around, in the same era, and it definitely had its own flash, had some real cool original weapons, but that kind of took me aback. I didn't even know this was still a thing. So,
well, if I remember correctly, the first one was universally loved, but I think the sequels were not. In fact, was there even any past 2, or was that the one that was panned? And
If I recall, that was the one that got sort of panned. Although could have sworn that there was a 3. In fact,
Okay.
there was. It came out, I think, in 2000, and it
Right.
was ish. I think it got. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't get terrible reviews, but it was just sort of mid range. It wasn't anything that really made as much of an impact as the original game did.
I mean, this is a golden age for the first-person shooter at this point,
Oh yeah,
and so, I mean, because they're so huge from GoldenEye and a few others that had come out. Well, yeah, you had GoldenEye, you had Unreal, and a few others. I mean, you'd already had some classics like Doom and Quake had come out, and some others. But I
yeah.
mean, you're really, first-person shooters are really taking a hold of gaming at this point.
Oh yeah. And I think I know for Turok specifically, after 3, really anything they did was sort of revisits or like semi reboots. Like I know there was Turok Evolution that was sort of called 4, quote unquote. Not really. Don't ask me to explain anything about the lore in that one. I have no idea where that was based. Just knew it
But what
was.
is there? What lore do you need about a? You're kind of a caveman guy, aren't you? And you're shooting dinosaurs.
You go take them out. That's all I remember.
Yeah. What? You don't need more lore. You're killing dinosaurs.
You got a tomahawk. You got a really cool arrow to start with. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a remake. Obviously, they're not
Right.
releasing something with
Right.
20-year-old graphics. So
That'd be a good April Fool's, but we're not quite to April yet. It's coming up. Here's the probably in my opinion this is what's going to be. There's two huge games on the radar for this month still, and the first is going to come on the 21st for us, the 23rd for Europe. That's Mass Effect Andromeda. This is going to be on PC, Xbone, and PS4. I've only played Mass Effect 1 myself. I've always had a very healthy respect for the series, though, just because of how massive and spanning it is. Gives me a headache thinking about trying to transfer your decisions / your saves game to game, what all that means. But hey, this is a gigantic, epic storyline. The Mass Effects have taken, I think, an idea encapsulated in a game like Chrono Trigger, for example, where your decisions have an impact, and really just taken that to the umpteenth extreme. So if you're a Mass Effect fan, I know you're probably watching this really closely. A couple of friends of mine have been ardent players for years, and I know they're really in that boat. So, but
is that still BioWare?
you know what? As far as the current publisher for Andromeda, I'm actually curious. The last
Did,
time I looked, it was, but yeah, I think it's BioWare. Yeah, they're the devs, but EA is the publisher, and I think that's
right.
still the case with this one.
It's funny because these single player RPGs that they've come out with, including obviously Knights of the Old Republic, I've not played any of them. Again, nothing but respect for them because I know there's been a huge following for them. I mean, for a while there, Mass Effect was the game.
Oh yeah,
And just I don't get into the single player RPGs. Never been huge on them, but hey, that's awesome. It's
yep.
they're continuing it on. I'm sure a lot of fans have wanted that, so kick ass.
Speaking of games fans want, yeah, and I say this one. I prefaced this earlier just because we know the dev team pretty well. Dark Souls 3.
Oh yeah,
The Ring City. Now, it's pretty important to note that fans are almost treating this one as like a separate release of its own. But if I recall, this is really it's a gigantic DLC for some of the existing setups that they already have. But it's going to be on PC, PS4, Xbox One, of course. Dark Souls is super famous for its difficulty. It's the medieval scale and combat and everything else. Unless you've been under a rock, I'm sure you've seen this one alongside of games like Bloodborne. Dark Souls has really been the medieval mouthpiece here, for lack of better terms.
kind of crazy how these games and again,
Yeah.
kudos. I mean, we've been big fans of these developers for a long time. Although I do not play these games. It was kind of crazy that this franchise just took hold like it did. I mean, this is in a lot of ways old school stuff.
Yeah, it is, and it goes way back too. It's something we talked about a long time ago. But even like Kingsfield, From Software had a lot of one-off games.
That's right, Kingsfield.
Yeah, and here's one of them that I think really they've even said in their interviews that they felt was really just going to be a one-off, and ended up developing into something much greater. They was Kingsfield, and then later on the first Dark Souls, and later Demon Souls, and said they had no idea it was going to be that popular. It just took off, and they've been delivering on a same scale of quality ever since. These have been just hot, super hot games.
Were you a big fan of Kingsfield?
I thought it was awesome just because of some of the introductions it made, especially to AC. The Moonlight, I think, is still pretty dear. That's one I'm never going to forget.
Is the Moonlight in Demon Souls?
I'd have to ask someone who's gone all the way through it. I don't believe it is. I haven't seen anything about it, but that would be golden if they had a throwback. And knowing From, I wouldn't be surprised. They're notorious for littering their games with Easter eggs from other stuff.
Right.
So, but those are probably the biggest games. There's a lot of other for this month at least. There's a couple of others that have filled in. Square is doing a weird release. We just got Kingdom Hearts 2.5. They're releasing 1.5 and 2.5 together on PS4. I can't even. Hard for me to even count that as a true release because they're 1.5 we've already seen before. It's the HD port for PS4. 2.5 is already out. This just puts them all in one box set, and you've got a couple of other things like that. But
I got nothing.
Yeah. Moving on, though, from March, start looking at the top of April, and a couple of things that are really making me smile here. Now, if you go back to the PS1 days, one of the first demo games I remember, besides Armored Core 1997 Pizza Hut demo disc, let's go.
There you go.
Paw Rappa the Rapper. And this was
Are they coming out with another game?
It's called Paw Rappa Remastered. PS4.
Oh my god, I missed this when I was going through the list. I loved Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah. April 4th.
Kick, punch.
What was it? It's all in the chop?
It's all in the mind, I think it was.
You're right. It was the Onion, that first stage, right?
Oh my god, that game was so great.
Yeah.
It was important. It was important at the time because it was one of the few games my girlfriend at the time would play. She was not a gamer in any sense, but she loved Parappa the Rapper.
As far as what they're doing with this, apparently they showed this at PlayStation Experience last December. I missed that. I don't think they're straying too far from the original on this. I'm expecting honestly more of maybe a port with some updates and things like that. However, it's not like a fully reimagined, brand new like HD Power App on PS4. Kind of unfortunate. I think it'd still be something fun today, especially because games like Guitar Hero, Dance Dance are still real big. Are
they still really big?
Oh yeah, man. Hey, just especially you go to cons, like it's not DDR, but they always got a couple of interactive dance titles. I always see tons of people jumping in.
I was never a fan, but I don't see them litter media in all of its forms in advertising anymore. So
they don't. I think they still maintain some popularity though, and like there's one set up, people will join in gladly, but I don't think the mania for it's there. So.
Are you a fan? Do you play any of those?
I don't. Now, if I dance, I'm actually just gonna go dance straight up. I'd rather be doing that because I think that's more fun. But
all right, there you go. All right, so they're still wow. All right, see, I'm glad you're doing this. There's all this good stuff. I might, you know what? God damn it, Parappa's going on my list.
Oh man, it's just keep it in your mind. As long as you do that. There's another big one that's been previewed a lot. This is coming up also on the same day, April 4th. This is Persona 5 on PS4. I have played none of the Persona series. They've all had a pretty hardcore following though, going forward, and they're mixing like RPG elements with I don't know if anyone here played Catherine. That was a wild ride. That was a pretty darn fun game from the same developer, Atlas. And you've got your puzzles here and there, but there's a large drama story around it. There's like some free roaming exploration and everything. But Persona fans have gone nuts about this. Over on my group that I play FF14 with, I had someone burst in the channel. I know just totally losing his head that another Persona was coming out, and he started rattling on about some characters I have no idea about. But this is supposed to be a pretty big release. It got some coverage at last E3 as well, and expecting some big
I've
things.
never heard of it.
It's supposed to be big.
I don't know what are you talking about.
Yeah, you're like, what
Yeah,
do
I
you?
don't know.
Yeah. Moving forward from that, a bit down the road on the 20th, we have Siberia 3, not to be confused with Siberia with a C from 1994 on PC. I love that game, by the way. But Siberia 3 with an S. It's coming out on PC, PS4, Xbox One. Again, more of a exploration game. It sort of reminds me of the Tomb Raider, where there isn't a Tomb Raider right now. But and yet it's not Tomb Raider at the same time. But it's in a, from everything I've seen or played from the earlier ones, it's in a similar vein. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe those kind of games are making a comeback.
Also, little down the line from that, on the 27th, I am excited for this one, Dawn of War 3 on PC. I have not played an RTS dedicated since Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun.
Oh, that's the game. That's the only one you ever need.
Yeah, which was amazing. I did really enjoy the first Dawn of War. I owned it when it came out on PC. I'm a Warhammer 40k fan. When I lived in the UK, pretty much everybody around me played 40k or Warhammer tabletop, so naturally I couldn't help but get into it. The first Dawn of War on PC came out, kind of followed that sci-fi RTS that I love so much, Tiberian Sun, really dug it. Had some weird balancing stuff, so I ended up shying away from it later on and during the expansion, but I will probably give this a shot. It's just been so many years since I've sat down and played a good RTS, and I've never been a StarCraft person, so...
I'm usually very selective about my RTSs as well. They're very hit or miss for me. I'm very, very finicky.
Yeah, rightfully so. So, I mean, if you're going to spend that much time micromanaging, do it right.
Right.
On down the line, another one I'm very amped for, and this encompasses a lot of my platformers during childhood, Sonic Mania. This one, while it isn't as anchored down to April, I want to go ahead and mention it here because right now it's set for spring. So even if it's right at the end of April or a little bit after going into May, the final release date should be out on this one soon. It's pretty far along. Reason I'm so excited about this is it's like Sega are finally, at least it looks like they've listened. We don't have some strange off-the-wall 3D Sonic title or whatever else. It's to the roots. In fact, it's very much in the vein of Sonic CD. You've got a lot of updated sprites, animations. The levels look great. Bringing back the gameplay to the old school 2D that we enjoyed in Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles and all that. And this looks like it's going to be pretty broad games when it comes to. So this is a no-brainer. I'm getting this one hands down.
Sweet.
Yeah. There's a couple of others. I think I heard there's like Disgaea coming out, and I think that's going to be on Switch. But that's really about all for
whatever.
Yeah, April.
There's no games coming out.
Nah.
Yeah. What is Disgaea? What is that?
Disgaea. Now it's kind of funny how I heard about this because Disgaea was a game that I heard about at the same time I heard about Suikoden, and again another game I never really played or got into, but it's a tactical RPG. It's always had a stronger base, I think, with Japanese players than it has here, so to speak. But I mean, it's been endearing and it's just hung on. I guess if you're really into stuff along the lines of like some of the crossovers, I was gonna say Tatsunoko v Capcom, but that's a bad example. They had a Namco versus like Capcom crossover that was a tactical RPG, and also like Front Mission. That'd be another good example of a tactical RPG. So it's along those lines, but heavy anime style to it. If it was up to me though, I skip this guy. I'd rather just go play BlazBlue. But what can I say?
Yeah, I don't even. If it's coming on Switch, I'm definitely not gonna.
No, don't even bother.
I'm not gonna get a Switch.
May. This one. Now we've got one here. It's on both our list. That's going to be hitting mid-May, May 16th. That's Injustice 2.
This is the game for May. I mean, seriously, look at it, and you tell me because I didn't see anything else when it came to May. Plus, we're also getting into summer, so the releases are dying down a little bit.
Right.
But is there anything else coming out in May worth mentioning?
In all honesty, the next big jump looks like it's in June. Not a whole lot of what I saw. So.
This game, I might pick this up. I'm generally very finicky about my fighting games. I mean, I love Mortal Kombat. I used to play Tekken a lot, and we'll get into that. When it comes to Injustice, I guess I act a little bit like a jealous girlfriend. And it's not to say it's because Ed Boon and NetherRealm Studios doesn't love Mortal Kombat. You can tell they do. In fact, there's a little bit to say about the fact that that's still their baby. But Injustice, like the first one and the second one, they just look so awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's. I guess maybe there's something to be said for the fact that they made MK9 and then they made Injustice.
Right.
And they took what they learned from that and put it in the new one. Same thing here. They made MK10 and now they're evolving off of that. And I think that's maybe where that jealousy comes from a little bit. This is just so cool. I might have to pick this one up.
Yeah.
Because when I say that hesitantly, only because when I pick up a fighting game, I don't just like screw around with the controls. No, when I get into a fighting game, I dig into that thing, and it's like it's a whole thing. It's like a science experiment that I got to take. I have to take grants and everything for it. It's ridiculous. But I might have to do that this time. I may not just sit on the sidelines and watch.
Hey,
I may have to actually get this.
Hey, I think it'll be worth it. I'm really excited to see what the presence for this is going to be at the EVO World Championship this year. We've had Injustice featured before. Really enjoyed watching that. I think even if this turns into a side event, it can be awesome. It has, again, really flowing gameplay in a similar vein to MK. Very recognizable, big names, characters, and all that. And I mean, the move sets are just sick, awesome. Great animations from just blowing your opponent through structures to DBZing all over the place with Superman, to reverse teleportation hits. It's just nuts. So
great story.
That too.
Great story. Again, looking at MK9, I mean, and this is something that NetherRealm has been doing. I mean, they brought back the fighting game genre, and a lot of the reasons that they did it was because with MK9, I mean, yes, they take Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, and they throw them all in one game, so you can't help but to have a lot of story. But they told that story in such a great way, and they've been continuing that with Injustice and then MK10. I mean, this has really turned into a thing. I mean, obviously in the past with previous MK games, they made the standard, and then they weren't hitting that anymore. But they're at the tip top again with this, and it's not just because the games are great fighting games, but the story is fantastic. This is probably going to be just like MKX was 2 years ago, the best-selling game of the year.
See, and I think that's really what you need. Strong mechanics these days and strong multiplayer are one thing, but when you have some lore that really pulls you in, that revives it. I think, for me so far, the best fighting game I played this year was the final BlazBlue game, Central Fiction. And I followed BlazBlue since they started coming out. It was a killer end of the series, but very similar things to what you're talking about here. Had a great story to it. Had really solid gameplay, anchored everything real good, great character selection, and I loved it. So if they can capitalize on everything they've been doing, and from what we've seen in gameplay, this is just going to be just kicking. Can't wait.
Right.
So good stuff. As we go out of May, except for saying there really isn't a whole lot else. Right at the start of June 2nd, Tekken 7.
Tekken.
Hey. We stepped on some ground here, and I think there's a lot that can be said about this series. The arcade port's already been around.
Let me say this real quick.
Yeah.
You are probably, no, in fact, right now, you are a much bigger fan of Tekken than I am.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that has always been the case.
Probably not. In fact, I can guarantee not.
I have a lot of disdain for Tekken at this point. But go ahead.
No. And I'm kind of curious where your disdain comes from. If it's more gameplay, it's more lore, or both.
It's a bit of both, but yeah, let's.
Yeah, let's explore this a minute. anyone who's been either watching Fighting Game Radar, especially if you tune in the Evo, this has been previewed a lot. Um, Ono from Capcom has sat down with the heads of Tekken and Harada a whole lot. Not just for their collaborations they did with SFX TK, but Harada always has something to say about Tekken whenever he's at Evo. He's been talking about this title a lot. Lore-wise, we're supposed to be delving into the origin behind the Devil Gene, Heihachi's wife, more of the history behind the Mishima family. The huge tagline of, it ends. I don't believe anything ever ends with this family. Let's be honest. I mean, Kazuya's been thrown off mountains. Heihachi gets blasted, across a mountain range himself by the Jack explosions, and it comes back just fine. So it's sort of hard to believe any form of finality with this family, but maybe they can surprise us.
Well, and that's a lot of my problem with it. This is what it's kind of like the last Terminator Genesis that came out.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see it?
No.
Right. Did you care?
No.
No. And why? Why did you not care?
Well, it's very similar to what I just hashed over. I mean, this is a formula that you've seen. As far as I'm concerned, look, told the story. I get it. The Skynet in the future, and John Connor and Sarah, and done.
Well, so it was an okay movie. It wasn't too bad. A lot of people don't like it. I thought it was all right. But my biggest problem, in which, despite me, I would definitely give it an approval more than anything, it's definitely a rental, is the fact that the first, not even the whole first act, but the beginning of the movie basically is all about how they can just continue to go back and they can change this and they can improve how they did upon things. Yeah. And the end result to that is none of this matters because it's just going to get redone. And that is how I felt when it comes to Tekken lore. I used to love Tekken. Let me say that I dropped off after the first Tekken Tag, but I absolutely loved Tekken Tag, and that was a game where the lore didn't matter.
It did,
which was fine because it was all about the gameplay. But the lore up until that point, and I keeping an eye on Tekken as time has gone on, it's just the same shit. They had something great once.
Yeah.
With this story, with Heihachi and his son and his grandson and all, it was really, you had that main story, but then you had everything around it, around the Tekken tournaments, and at one point it was really compelling. And we're talking back in a day where when fighting games, the lore and the story was a less than more thing.
Yeah,
and that's what made it so great. That being said, I even ordered the Tekken movie, the animation.
Yeah.
Just to learn more about it, and that was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Because that was apparently canon. Very disappointing, though. I don't really know if it was. I could have sworn they said that was canon, though, what happened in that. But it just got to the point, and this also happened at the same time when fighting games really fell off the radar, where it was just like, it's just it's just the same shit.
Well, and let me catch you here with Tekken too. Around the time going beyond the Tekken 4 era, I think going into Tekken 5 when Wesley Snipes, aka Blade, no, I'm just kidding, Raven was introduced. There was this whole tagline. In fact, the whole release line of the promotional campaign was Heihachi Mishima is dead. And of course, that's an attention getter for fans. Oh my God, how, what happened? And for where we are now, whatever. And none of that really, amounted to much anything. No, it's all right. No, he was good. He just shrugged it off, and now we're back where we were. So, it's a suspension of disbelief. I'll believe it when I see it. With this series, if they are serious, really serious about anything. Jin goes through this whole thing of trying to kill himself in Tekken 6. Brings the world into a catastrophe. Nearly brings the world into a catastrophe in the process. Fails to kill himself, by the way. Still alive. So again, it's just grandeur to the point of what. All that being said, gameplay-wise, of course, Tekken has always carved out a lot of ground when it comes to 3D fighters, but it got really, really juggle-happy over the years. Post Tekken 3, we go into Tekken 4, where we started to get wall stuns. And after Tekken 4, once we get into 5, and launchers became more of a story than they already were, really, if you're really effective at it, you're going to catch a good launcher and probably completely bake your opponent. Assuming you can carry your combo, carry the wall, continue, get the reset, get the stun off that KO. I mean, the good thing about Tekken Tag, and I'll mention this, Tekken Tag 2 was excellent, by the way, if you enjoyed the first. The reason why I can respect Tekken Tag 2 in this current Tekken environment so much is because you can maintain that system and still make it sensible. The counter system, the techs, the parries are spot on. They work really well with everything that's happening, and it puts more things in the player's court, I think. But all that being said, I am not as excited as I was, say, when like Tekken 3 or Tekken 4 came out. I think it's cool to have Tekken on the map. I'll take a look at it, but I'm not jumping out of my seat.
This is on my list, by the way. Out of all the trash talking I just did, it should be noted, this is on my list. I'm watching this.
Oh yeah.
And I'm either going to love watching it come back to glory, or I'm going to love watching it crash and burn.
one way or another.
I'm going to enjoy it one way or the other. I hope it's good though. I will definitely at least rent it to try it out again. But yeah.
To round out June though, if you dig RPGs, this is your time. We got Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind. That's going to be June 6th, PC, PS4, and of course Xbox One. I've never been a huge Elder Scroll guy myself, but it's got quite a following at this point. It's laid out quite a few episodes in the series, and this century should also be pretty big. And then right alongside Elder Scrolls, you got Final Fantasy. There's two big releases. One of which is I will be playing guaranteed. Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood is the second expansion to FF14. This is coming out June 20th. Also, Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age on PS4. This is a full re-release of FF12, which is it's going to be fun to see how this goes. I lovingly call FF12 the single-player MMO because of how it was set up. Way back when, Square did a really good reboot in this same sort of world of Ivalice with Final Fantasy Tactics: The Line War on PS. I was going to say PS1. No, it was on PSP. But it was excellent. They maintained it. They built on the story. They extended all the cutscenes. They voice acted it. They added I don't know how many scenes. Added new classes. Added new items and everything else. So similar treatment with 12 in full PS4 HD could be pretty cool. I never went through FF12 myself. Don't know if I even have time to these days, but yeah. I think out of those, 14 is going to be my one that I really look into. So, and
meh.
man, yeah. And we're going to get into this in another show about your meh regarding FF.
Yes,
and I know, especially with FF7 remake, we'll get a chance to talk about that a whole lot. But
we got a nuclear bomb in our pocket we're holding on to.
Oh, we do. But for the as far as for everything else coming down the road, as we said, going into fall, everything's really murky as far as nailing down release dates. But there's just a couple of games I'm going to focus on right at the end here that I think is going to be pretty important going forward. I think it would be really worth keeping our eye on. The first one, in fact, is an indie game. This has gotten a lot of coverage at the last few PAXs, especially PAX East 2016. It was covered at E3 as well. That's Cuphead. This is by Studio MDHR, two brothers. Really cool. It's a 1930s Golden Age Disney-style platformer. That's a bullet hell. It's 2 players. But that doesn't break that whole animation style during all the gameplay. It's almost like you're playing like a fluid cartoon. All hand-drawn, mind you. This looks fun. Straight out fun. Also, I can see this as being really hard, but...
I did not even know this existed until about half an hour before the show. I'm now a fan. In fact, this is on the list officially.
Putting
that on the list.
It's just a really original idea.
When's it come out?
It's right now. It is again. It's not nailed down. It's mid 2017. The way it's slated. So this could happen within the next couple months. Even I'm expecting around May, June. Personally, we'll see. Oh, shoot. I couldn't blame you for having this one on your list. Again, the coverage on it's been killer. I got to see it in action some the last PAX I was at least I saw at East when it was being spoken about. Looks killer. So this, along with some of the other great indies I've seen recently, Villainous and also Beats and Shapes, which isn't anywhere near out yet. Yeah, this goes on the list. Um, the last two, and I think these are pretty darn important. Again, they don't have nailed down release dates yet, but we're looking at late 2017 for both of these. The first is Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2. The Guilty Gear reboot, essentially, onto mainstream consoles for PS4 and Xbox was huge. This was featured at Evo. It's got excellent gameplay. If you're an old school fan of Guilty Gear, all the character is still there. There's a lot of love in this one. ArcSys, I think, have knocked it out of the park in terms of maintaining a 2D style, but with some just really crazy, awesome animation and cell shading. Super fun game. I'm not gonna get it myself, but I love watching this one played. I love watching tournament play. Maybe that'll take me over the edge. I don't know. And right along.
I've never been. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I've never been much of a Guilty Gear fan. Again, very selective about my fighting games because I put so much concentration on them. This one just, I mean, it was always, like you said, it was always really cool to watch. But I never was one to pick it up myself.
Can't blame you, because it's got a bit of a curve, I think, to get into it. But once you do, just like most of the others, you'll be offline with it. It's really solid. Right in the vein of fighting games, though, and this one is really, really up there in my list. That's Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, aka MVC4.
Oh yeah.
Again, all we know is 2017 right now. Don't know if Capcom will actually change that. We know it's going to be late 2017. We've already got a brief trailer out for it and some conceptual work, so it is very much there. It is very much in the works. Already got a few cool characters announced. We know Mega Man X is going to be in it. We know Captain Marvel's going to be in it. Absolutely sick. Should be some pretty awesome stuff.
Looking at this, and not to just glance by the game you just brought up, but this is the year of the fighting game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch here. I mean, if you take, just MVC, Guilty Gear, Tekken, all of those in their own. I mean, shoot. And Injustice even, I want to say RPGs and fighting games are running fairly neck and neck. There, like I said, there's a lot of Final Fantasy stuff happening. There's Elder Scrolls, and there's a couple others, but I think those seem to be the two big genres right now. I mean, the rest is there's tons of different restyles and remakes and re-releases, but
it's 20 years ago all over again.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, what's old is new. Capcom versus Marvel. I mean, we've talked about that before. I think at length.
Yeah.
I've never played it. I've seen it. I think I got my hands on it once or twice. Always kind of shied away from this, and that's mainly because it's more in the vein of the Street Fighter games, and I just ever since I played Street Fighter 2 quite a bit, but past that point it kind of lost me a bit, with all the different versions, and in this case the Marvel vs. Capcom, if I remember correctly, wasn't there something like 40 different characters in some of those?
Oh yeah, MVC's roster was insane. The first one, not as many characters. By the time you hit MVC2, pretty sure we were in the 60s at that point.
Yeah, I mean, where's the meta for that game? Jesus Christ.
There. I'll talk about that another time. But actually, the meta, it's pretty narrow. Like, here's the cool thing about MVC, especially 2. There are sub metas with about almost the whole cast. There's some crazy stuff you can do with almost any, or like certain combinations, but there's a very specific concentration of like 4 or 5 characters that are specifically insane, and it's lovingly called MSP and a few of the others, but I'll talk about that in another show.
I guess that's my point. I mean, how can you have any true form of balance in a game with 60 characters unless you water down half those damn characters?
Yeah, some really have heavily neutered movesets. Like, very few. You compare that to how some of the other specials can branch out. So,
hey, And I'm talking bad about it. I don't mean to. And I guess what I'm just saying is that it's not my cup of tea.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, hey, if people love it, go for it. That's
Absolutely.
just I yeah, just not my thing. But cool. I know you're looking forward to it. I'm sure millions of others are as well.
Yeah, and it's one of the few that I think is able to pull off having characters with really narrow move sets, but still keeping things really fun and actually keeping those characters actually pretty competitive. Real quick, in MVC2, Colossus has an insanely small move set, hardly any, but he hits like a bus. If you know how to time his charges right and catch the giant swings and then catch his die count, he'll still do stupid damage. So, man, good stuff. We'll see.
All right, yeah, it definitely seems like the year of the fighting game, though. That's interesting. Be really interesting to see how the year turns out. Then, of course, what we couldn't, like we said at the beginning, what we can't preview is the biggest time of the year, which is the holiday season. There's nothing officially listed. I didn't even see anything kind of listed, which is kind of crazy considering we're less than a year out. I'm sure that there's big names coming out that I'm just missing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as others, I know there's supposed to be like metal. I know there's a Metal Gear at some point. I don't even know if that's going to be this year. I think the people are thinking that might even slide into 2018. And then there was, we talked about this before. There was that re-release of Resident Evil
Hmm.
Revelations. There's some like that sliding around, but again, none of that's even guaranteed at this point. So
Yeah, so yeah, kind of interesting. I guess I'm thinking back to when I was a big fan, and that was definitely the PS1, PS2 era, going into the PS3 era.
yeah,
I mean, you knew this stuff though. You knew this stuff long ahead of time. So, and obviously a lot of these you can tell because we're talking into September and such. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, what? I mean, they don't even have them slated yet. That's kind of weird.
yeah.
I, I guess it's changed.
Yeah, part of it could be just I think devs sort of giving themselves wiggle room to make adjustments and everything. Because then there's some safety to be played too. Some devs get nervous about playing all the cards up front, setting a release, and then maybe not hitting something that they think fans might really want to see in or whatever else, or pulling back or adding to or whatever. There's so much more caution, in the environment, and I think that whole risk taking. Uh, there's a lot of teams that are a little reluctant to do that ahead of time or bolt themselves down to release. Of course, to our pain, but nonetheless.
Well, all right. So there it is. I think that's going to do it for this week. Next week, again, we're going to be doing a review of Season 1 of Iron Fist, and we're going to be talking about the reviews and the release of the Nintendo Switch. It'll be about 2 weeks out at that point. I think that's plenty of time then to give it a really good review. But yeah, I think that does it for this week, doesn't it?
That'll wrap it.
Okay, so all right, that's Jagged Edge. If you want to email us, you can do so at ksallmedia.com. All one word there, ksallmedia. I'm sorry, I said .com, didn't I?
Yeah.
ksallmedia at gmail.com. Go ahead and give us a like and follow us here on YouTube. Is that right? Is it a follow on YouTube?
you
I,
know,
I'm dating myself here big time.
they'll follow you around on Twitter. I'm sure they'd be happy to follow you and your beautiful locks of hair here too. So,
My beautiful locks of hair. All
oh
right,
man, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Till next
all
week,
right,
have a good one.
all right. See you later.